at the for the benefit of one particular business that's chosen by the king at that.
Yeah, and another term for that is crony capitalism.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that Ken and I talk about all the time is all of these things that the government is supposed to be doing, like infrastructure and roads, that's what they're supposed to be doing, and they're privatizing all of that. And the things that they are privatizing are not supposed to be controlled at some point by the government, and that's why I'm so happy that Rick Perry didn't get one vote. Because this is what we fight every single day in Texas, this crony capitalism. They tried to take citizens' homes and sell them to a company out in Spain to build the Texas Trans Corridor, which enough people got active about and stopped, which it's not really stopped, it's just changed names and we're fighting a whole other issue. But that's the idea, is the government is supposed to be doing some things that they're privatizing, and then they're taking over things that should be privatized. So everything is just backwards. So if you can find ways to communicate the issues in your neighborhoods to your neighbors that directly affect them or even their children, that's going to make them more inclined to say, oh, put me on your email list. And they stay updated, and when something hits, because we all have different triggers. Everybody has different triggers, whether it's Sharia law, that's a big one. The Agenda 21 stuff, huge. It could just be taxes, like this guy that showed up that I'd never met. Get them on your email list, keep them updated, and when things come down to a personal level, that's when you'll see them show up and get engaged. So when you do that, constantly push out your precinct stuff, and when you get your training, that'll be the perfect time to kind of come up with your plan for your neighborhoods, and then just get out there and just push it. Because people do care, especially when they know that it's going to affect them on a personal level. Yes, sir.
I'm sure you'll recognize this for what I'm assuming it is now after listening to your presentations today. Here in Jefferson City, and I don't remember the organization, someone else here, Mike, that's from town. Recently the city won a grant from, I don't remember the agency, but they're doing a green project in town. And right on the heels of that, they've started what they call I think the Transformation Project, and they've got 7, I think, citizen teams that are looking at development of the city and different areas that they're interested in trying to promote, that sort of thing. And I'm sure if it's not tied in with it, the feds will be right in on top of it with the grants and everything else. So.
Any type of project that has any type of progressive term, like Envision, Garland, transformation, I think the Dallas project is Forward Dallas. Anything that projects anything into the future or change is probably connected to something similar. I would definitely look into that. Yes, sir.
I have kind of 2 questions. One is on the precinct. If you have a township that is represented by a state representative or a state senator, what is your opinion on trying to potentially replace them if they're not as involved any much because they're spending their duties more in Jefferson City? And part 2, I guess, would be if it's the bylaws that says that the township must be a man and a woman. Why is that? I've never heard anybody explain that. Why is it always classified as a man and a woman in a township?
It's probably in your rules somewhere.
It's arbitrary.
Well, the man and woman thing was an effort to prove that the Republican Party is not gender biased. And I think we've made progress in that area. We probably needed it at the time, but I don't know that we still need it. I doubt we could ever. I wouldn't spend much time trying to change it.
But the Democrats are saying that. I mean,
Yeah,
all parties are.
it was passed by state statute, and it would have to be passed by state statute to change it. But it's a gender bias arrangement, and it's probably okay because we're pretty close to 50-50. The people that serve both at the precinct, township, ward chairman level and are also elected to higher positions, you get a lot of that, mostly because of apathy on people that want the position. Yes, it keeps them informed of the grassroots, and some of them are motivated to stay on the county committee because it gives them feedback, but they end up not coming to most of the meetings because they're preoccupied with something else. Another thing you run into a lot is a husband and wife doing both positions. I would go to them to places where they're couples and say, look, we need to expand the base. We need to let the free competition of ideas come out. And you're controlling 2 seats here. It's as good as 1 vote. And anybody that even is a good person in a precinct position, if their husband or wife is doing it too, we don't need both of them. We need people in there competing for ideas and broadening the base.
Mark, you had a question?
I want to speak specifically to this. I believe that these people that are elected to higher office, now this goes to the difference of personalities in counties, and this is a personal opinion. Having gotten involved in this and figuring out why in the world I never knew about townships in the first place, up until very recently, when they hold that position, it lowers the base. You don't get your grassroots people in there. When you have husbands and wives, we just had a special election in the county of St. Charles for the 15th district. We had 5 votes required for who was going to be our primary nominee for the Republican Party. Critical. 2 families created that situation, and guess who the nominee ended up being? A person who was represented by one of those families, in one of those families, was a township person. Her husband and wife, she got to vote for herself because she was a township person, and then there were 3 people with the same last name who were the other 3. Before we even got in there, they had us sewn up. This is why it is important to break up husbands and wives. I believe it is important to not have elected public officials. They can come and attend any meeting they want to as an observer. It takes the space away from another name, another person, another conservative, and another different vote. So it's kind of different between different counties, but that's my personal opinion, and I just saw it happen, and it made me very upset.
We had a question up here.
Ken and Katrina both had excellent presentations. Are there copies available, detailed copies available?
Yeah, my presentation is online, and I can send a link around.
Okay. Same.
Question for, John or whoever. I'm really kind of new to this precinct stuff. I started looking into it about a year ago, looked at the Secretary of State's website, and got totally confused by it. I couldn't figure out who was voting for it because I thought, well, I've never voted for it, so it must be somebody special that gets to vote for it. But my question is, with the caucus system coming in for this next time around, how is that going to change the dynamics? And I still don't have all the mechanisms in place, but I mean, to me, it's a lot easier to get somebody out probably to go to the primary for a couple of minutes to vote than to come to a caucus.
Okay, think of this in 2 totally different tracks. In an election year, delegates to the national convention are chosen in a caucus system. In the past, those delegates have been bound on the first vote by the presidential primary, most recent elections. This time that will not be the case. Anybody can show up at a caucus and declare I am a Republican or I am a Democrat. We've worked on some litmus tests for faithful and true, but we only came down to if you're a card-carrying member of another party, you can't vote in our party. If a libertarian, and a lot of Ron Paul libertarians came, a lot of libertarians came in the 2010-8 election and said, I'm a Republican. Well, they really were affectionate more toward a different party, but we couldn't work that out. So on one track toward the presidential convention, nominating convention, this will be done by caucus. It'll be done by whoever shows up that's a registered voter will be able to vote unless there's rules that exclude them for being a member of another party. The other track is the precinct committee man who elects this track of leadership that votes for the state committee and the national committee. That's a totally separate organizational structure. You can think of those people as the voting members of that political party. They're going to set the agenda because their philosophy and their preferences for candidates are going to have an advantage as they go forward. If those people are you serve for 2 years, you'll be elected at the next one, but the presidential caucuses, it's you show up at a county caucus, then you'll be elected as a delegate to a district convention caucus, and maybe to a state convention, and 50 people will go to the national convention from Missouri in the Republican primary.
Second question, the county meetings, the committee meetings, I assume those are open?
Yes, they are open. Some counties in their bylaws, and this would be one of the first things to ask for when you get elected, could I have a copy of the bylaws? Many county chairmen don't share their bylaws with their members because it creates problems if you know how to.
You know the rules, and
You know
it
the
really
rules.
makes it hard to.
So you need to know Robert's Rules of Order, and you need to know the bylaws of your meeting, of your committee, and you can become an informed person. Yes, sir?
Yeah, the chairman will give out the bylaw for that committee. Where do you collect it to get them?
Well, there's a uniform bylaws that's usually pretty standard. Some counties elect specific bylaws, but I really doubt that especially if you are a committee member and you ask for a copy of the bylaws, no county chairman will say you can't have
I
one of
know a
these.
few members on the committee, like one friend of mine, her chairman will give her.
I would stand up in the first meeting I went to and I'd say, I move that the county chairman give a copy of the bylaws to every member of the committee. And the committee's going to vote him down and make sure that everybody gets a copy of the bylaws. John?
Two quick questions. The first one is, the meetings are supposed to be open. How do you find out when they are? I'm specifically talking about Newton County.
Yeah. Newton County are called by the chairman.
At his
with-
will.
At his will, probably with 5 days' notice. I practice the same thing in Jasper County.
So, in other words, if you're the general public, you have no idea when,
There
where.
is no statutory requirement to
Okay.
print those in the newspaper. There is a statutory requirement to print the caucuses that are coming up for the presidential. That has to be published 15 days before the caucus happens. I would
and that's-
call the county chairman and say, would you put me on your notification list of when the county committee's meetings are, so that they are open, and if they won't comply with that, I would start contacting the members of the county committee individually. You can get that list at your county clerk's office and say, this is going on, do you know that? Maybe we need a different chairman in this county.
And the second thing is, when are the caucuses scheduled for?
The caucus dates are on the handout I gave you.
Okay.
I gave you all the dates.
This is a very good example of why you've got to get that central committee in your county into the hands of true conservatives. There are a lot of places where we didn't even know really what this was all about, because again, unless someone is challenged at the township level, their name doesn't even appear on the ballot. So you get your voter card and it says you're in Township 3, but okay, what's that mean? Well, you didn't know behind that. That meant that automatically someone was going to sit as your representative in that position, and because no one was bothering, because they didn't know about it, to run against them, you never even knew who they were. And this is really becoming critical, and it is so easy, because we'll know. And so it's easy to do, and it's easy to encourage your neighbors to run for these things, or yourself.
No one's running in your township, and you want to run rather than be appointed, apply on the last day.
Not necessarily. I don't necessarily agree. You don't know who else is going to apply on the last day either.
Well, but if somebody is sitting there waiting to be appointed and not running, or is not going to be running, then as soon as you apply,
They'll run somebody else.
They'll call somebody up. You need to get on the ballot.
Well, you need to beat them. You need to go to the houses before they do, and more often than they do. Most people, when somebody else, my experience in trying to recruit people to run, I've asked people to run, they go in and they say, well, somebody else already had signed up, so I didn't think I wanted to get into a contest. So I recommend you go file the first day, you put them on the defensive, and you go call on more houses than they do. We've got to take these seats back aggressively, not hope that things go on our way. Let me close, I think we're out of time. Let me read this quote from Thomas Jefferson. It ought to be on the record. It's on the blue sheet of paper that you have. The article nearest my heart, Thomas Jefferson's heart, that's a pretty strong statement. The article nearest my heart is the division of counties into wards. These will be pure and elementary republics. Each precinct is a republic, the sum of which taken together composes the state and will make of the whole a true democracy. As to the business of the wards, which is that of nearest and daily concern, the affairs of the larger sections of counties, of states, and of the unions not admitting personal transactions by the people will be delegated to agents elected by themselves, and representation will thus be substituted where personal action becomes impracticable. Yet even over these representative organs, should they become corrupt and perverted, the division into wards constituting the people in their wards, a regularly organized power enables them, by that organization, to crush regularly and peaceably the usurpations of their unfaithful agents, and rescues them from the dreadful necessity of doing it insurrectionally, which is how our country was founded. In this way, we shall be as Republican as a large society can be, and secure the continuance of purity in our government by the salutary, peaceable, and regular control of the people. Thomas Jefferson, 1816.
Like I said before, we've all learned a lot this morning. We'll have another exciting session this afternoon, so go and enjoy lunch.